Welcome back. This is Market View. Thank you for staying with us. We continue with our program. With the Minister for Finance, Honorable Neil Rackenberg, set to table the budget tomorrow in Parliament. The business community hopes that there will be no increases in taxes. The Chief Executive Officer, Inati Dlamini, says the minister faces his toughest budget yet since there was a shortfall in sacred receipts and there might be cuts in foreign aid.
We have huge expectations of the budget that not only will it address the key priority areas that we are looking at as a business, but also that it will be inclusive. We also appreciate as a business community that this speech occurs against a very, very, very challenging backdrop. If you're looking what's happening around the world and around the region, which means the geopolitical landscape under which we are working, the unpredictability of the environment generally, not within the region and all over the world. There's just too many balls in the air and you don't know which one will land first. And now the Honourable Minister has that challenge to create a budget which will address so many unknowns. In other words, we are saying we appreciate the difficult position in which he finds himself. But he has been arguably one of the best finance ministers, and I'm hoping he's done very well. And I'm hoping even this time around he lead the country through this mess. We are also keenly aware and very worried the dwindling sacred receipts. And you talk about a shortfall of 2 billion. 2 billion is a lot of money. You talk about a possible loss of budgetary contribution for the health sector. And we know what's happening around the world, the PEPFARs and etc., and the medicines. That money, we might end up even losing it, which means the Minister of Finance has to find ways to get that fresh funding. So if you look at a shortfall of 2 billion and possibly another shortfall of 1 billion this side, generally speaking, you're looking probably a shortfall of 3 billion, which you had last year, now you don't have. The question, Honourable Minister of Finance, where do you find that? We will trust on your creativity, as usual, that you will creatively find avenues to find that money without burdening the taxpayer. We are asking him, and humbly so, please, Honourable Minister, do not raise taxes. The private sector is not ready for that. The people are not ready for that because we are still really trying to get out of the after effects of COVID and social unrest and etc. We're still trying to get our houses in order. We're not stable yet. Maybe in the next few years we can talk about that. So there is a lot of expectations and a lot of unknowns. All of us are going to Parliament tomorrow, keenly waiting to say what magic trick is he going to pull with the minister. But I'm sure it's going to be something very exciting.
The United Nations says His Majesty King Mswati III has already laid the foundation and set the tone for this year's budget. They say the Minister for Finance, Honourable Neil Rackenberg, has to use His Majesty's speech as a guide, promising to give technical support to Eswatini as the budget is being implemented.
Last week at the opening of Parliament, His Majesty King Mswati shared his speech from the throne, and we understand the speech from the throne as a broad policy statement that suggests where the country wants to go. And His Majesty did highlight key areas that are of interest to us. He talked about the need to pay attention to young people and employment creation. He talked about issues of energy. He talked about issues of investing in technological transformation, digital transformation, and he talked about micro, small and medium enterprises and so on. So one would expect that in many ways the budget will be responding to that broad policy statement in ways that enable Eswatini to expand its economic development in line with the vision of becoming a developed country. Eswatini is now a middle-income country, So the United Nations, there was a time when we would be considered a donor country. Now what we try to do, because a country like this does not attract donor funding anymore, we try to leverage our technical expertise to support government in laying in place all the policy frameworks, the regulatory frameworks, connecting with potential investors, helping them think about what we call market-ready projects that could attract investments. So we are here as a partner that supports the government to strengthen its capacities to plan for long-term development and then attract the necessary mix of financing. For example, if you talk about energy, energy is a key area if the country wants to grow economically. And we're talking about how does Eswatini consider the energy mix, for example, that we will need to power its development. Also paying attention to the idea that we are also talking about sustainability as well. How do we move from being reliant on energy imported from outside to our own energy, while at the same time also paying attention to sustainability?
Businesswomen Eswatini have also shared their views on what they think this year's budget should look. We spoke to the Chief Executive Officer, Toki Hao, who, after sharing the key priorities, stated that they will work with government and stakeholders concerned to support the implementation of the budget.
As our king has spoken, we was talking about the Ngwe and running and creating jobs. I think right now what we are faced with is the unemployment. So what we need to focus mainly on is how do we create jobs around the energy around us? What do we do going green? And the UN as well, as we are here today coming to discuss and talk about what do we do about creating that space. So that is what we are expecting.
All right, and that's it for the business community's views on what is expected from Minister for Finance in Rustenburg tomorrow as he tables this year's budget speech. After the break, we connect with Sanel Sbia for today's financial market.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Market View. This is the final episode this week. Thank you for staying with us. We now are joined by Sanel Sbia, our in-house economist for today's financial markets. Good afternoon, Mr. Sbia. Thank you for tuning in. Let's start with the U.S. The U.S. inflation numbers were released yesterday, and it seems that inflation has gone up to 3% for the first time since June last year. Take us through what's happening in the markets today.
Good afternoon, Lungelele, and good afternoon to you at home. So what we're seeing happening in the U.S. is, just a mixed reaction to those inflation news and to those Trump policies that we are seeing. If you look at your Dow Jones Industrial Average, it has lost a few points together with the S&P 500. It's only the tech-heavy NASDAQ that seems to be urging forward on the positive, purely because we do fear that the tariffs in themselves, they are actually going to be a bit more inflationary. So markets are already building that in. And given that, markets are not moving in line with the US. So it's relatively easier for the UK market and, the European and the Asian markets to just blue tick those motives. So that's why we're seeing those mixed movements in the markets today, Lungelele.